this Warmaster video we're going to showcase a scenario from an upcoming UK tournament. The battle will be fought between the Wood Elves and the Daemons at 2000 points. This scenario is called the Spoils of War. The game will last for 2.5 hours or until one army is forced to withdraw. At the end of the game, the army with the most victory points is the winner. The battlefield is set up with scenery to represent what you would normally find in a UK tournament. Our battle takes place across a road, winding its way between hills and woods to a human farmstead. The 4 hills block line of sight and offer defended status to infantry and artillery on top of them. The 2 woods can only be entered by infantry, they block line of sight and offer defended status. The fields cannot be entered by chariots and prevent enemy chargers from claiming their charge attack bonus. The lake is a deep water feature and is impassable. The marsh can only be entered by infantry and counts as dense terrain but offers defended status. The road is open ground and grants a command bonus to any unit in column formation upon it. The single tower is an impassable building, while the farmstead counts as a built-up area. The armies will be deployed along the long edges of this battlefield, at least 80 centimeters from each other. Buried beneath the soil of this battlefield are 5 elven soul gems. The elves are desperate to recover the soul gems before the demons can get their talons upon them, whilst the demons aim to use the soul gems to bolster their magical power and summon more of their hideous kind into the world. The buried soul gems are represented by 5 loot tokens. They are placed 30 centimeters apart along the center line of the battlefield. The first token goes dead center in the middle of the board. 2 more are placed in the fields, and 2 more along the road. Any unit of infantry, cavalry or chariots that's normally able to carry a magic item can collect a soul gem by landing on top of a token at the end of their move. A unit carrying a soul gem token suffers a -1 command penalty, but at the end of the battle, any unit in possession of a soul gem token gains an additional 200 victory points for the army's total. Each player can also take up to 3 strategy cards for the battle. The cards are selected at random and will have either a minor positive or minor negative effect upon the battle. Both players decide to take 1 of each type of card. The terrain cards are played at the start of the game before either side is set up. The demon player uses his card to turn the tower into a blessed relic, which will remove confusion from units within range at the start of the turn, on a d6 roll of 6. The Wood Elf player uses their terrain card to turn a hill into Brokeback Mountain, which prevents more than 2 character pieces being placed upon it in any given turn. So now let's look at the armies. First we have the Daemons. My demon army is very infantry heavy, with a few chariots and some flyers as mobility. All 3 characters are wizards, and its key strength is engaging the enemy in defendable terrain and beating them. To start with, we must take 1 demon general and 6 units of demon hordes. We add 6 more units of demon hordes and 3 units of demon swarm. There are 3 units of demon chariots and 1 unit of demon hounds. 2 units of demon flyers provide aerial mobility. There are 2 other characters who are both demon sorcerers. 1 demon sorcerer carries a ring of magic and the other a dispel scroll. The sorcerer with the Ring of Magic has been upgraded with the Favour of the Gods, which means they gain an attack and now cause terror. While the Demon General is also upgraded to a Wizard. The breakpoint for the army is 11. In this battle we will be playtesting the new rules for demon instability. Next we have the Wood Elves. The Wood Elf army also features a strong heavy infantry contingent, supported by missile infantry, cavalry and flyers. The army boasts 2 treemen to help anchor the line, while the general is accompanied by 2 forest spirit characters. We shall be playtesting the new rules for Wood Elves in 2022, and this did increase the cost of Steve's list by 15 points due to the treekin. To balance things out, we simply added a Sword of Might and a Sword of Fate to the Demons. The army has to take 1 Wood Elf General, 4 units of Glade Guard, and 2 units of Dryads. We add 1 more unit of Dryads and 3 units of Tree Kin. There are 4 units of Wild Riders, 2 units of Warhawk Riders, and 2 Treemen. We add a Treeman Ancient and a Branch Wraith to round out the characters. The breakpoint for the army is 9. We now use the optional scouting rules to determine which army deploys first. Both armies have 2 units of flyers and will deploy these as their scouts, so both armies have a scouting value of 6. The demons roll an 8 and the Wood Elves roll a 7, so the demons deploy their scouts first. I place the flyers at the rear of my deployment zone on both flanks. This is a deployment ruse. It is intended to make my opponent believe that I will deploy the rest of my army between the 2 units of flyers. However, I have no intention of doing that. I intend to overload one flank and focus upon the objectives in the fields. As they lost the scouting role, the Wood Elves now have to deploy their entire army. This is a forest spirit themed Wood Elf army, and the core strength of the army lies in its heavy infantry, with 3 units of Treekin forming a formidable front line. The Dryads go in support, and the 2 Treemen anchor the edges of the line. The Wild Riders are the army's mobile hammer units, and their speed will be useful for capturing objectives quickly. The archers will remain in defendable terrain on the flanks of the army to deter enemy flanking attacks. The Wood Elf battle plan is to move forward onto the objectives quickly and then retreat back to the safety of their own defendable positions and force the demons to come to them. If any gaps appear in the demon line as it advances, the Wood Elves will take advantage of this and select targets of opportunity to charge. I then deploy the demons, starting with 2 brigades of infantry on my left flank. I place 2 more infantry brigades on my centre left, and as the Wood Elves have no long-range shooting, the demon swarms are placed at the rear of each brigade to provide support, as I don't need my swarms to catch enemy cannonballs. Finally, my chariots and cavalry deploy in the centre, where they can react to the enemy cavalry. My characters are placed between my infantry brigades, and the armies are ready for battle. The opposing infantry brigades will be fighting over the fields for the 2 objectives there, while the Wood Elf cavalry is largely uncontested on their left flank, and should be able to grab the 2 objectives on the road. As they lost the scouting role, the Wood Elves automatically get the first turn. The Treeman Ancient starts by ordering forward 2 brigades of Wild Riders. The Glade Guard cannot understand the Treeman's language, however, so remain in the trees. On the right flank, the Branch Wraith attempts to order up a brigade of infantry but fails the order. Instead, the General takes command and orders the general advance of the Wood Elf infantry line. Forest Spirits and Glade Guard take up defensive positions in and around the farmstead, whilst the Warhawks move up onto their flank. The characters are then moved in advance of the units, ready for next turn. And back on the left flank, the tree man also moves up, ready to command the cavalry next turn. The demons start their first turn by homing back the right wing flyers towards the nearest character. A sorcerer then orders forward the cavalry and chariot brigade, and with a successful second order they form line and capture one of the loot tokens. This loot token will now move wherever the red chariots go. A unit of demon flyers is then ordered to land behind the elven cavalry brigade, and then the demon infantry is ordered to slowly advance off their defended hill. A second demon infantry brigade is also ordered off the hill and makes good progress. The general then orders the second unit of demon flyers. They fly behind the Wood Elf infantry brigades. The purpose of landing flyers behind enemy units in this way is to impose a -1 command penalty. The general then attempts to order up the remaining infantry brigades, but the demons are slow to respond to his commands and little progress is made. The demon characters then move up in advance of their units, ready to command them next turn. So at the end of turn 1, the demons have managed to capture 1 loot token. However, their infantry line has advanced in a somewhat staggered formation, whereas the Wood Elf line is much more compact. The Wood Elves now have to decide whether to go for the objectives on the road with their cavalry, or to attack the demons. The Wood Elf general, César Milan, uses his ability to whisper the language of dogs, and sends his pack of hounds across the battlefield bearing messages to his units. The Wood Elf player then plays a strategy card on his Treeman Ancient. The Nerves of Steel card allows the character to ignore the -1 penalty for enemy within 20 centimeters when issuing orders to units. On the Wood Elf right, the Warhawk riders home back towards their general, and on the left, the Warhawk riders home back towards the Treeman character. Ignoring the presence of the demon flyers thanks to his Nerves of Steel, the Treeman Ancient orders 1 unit of Wild Riders to charge into the demon hounds. The second unit of Wild Riders from the brigade moves around to bring the demon flyers into their line of sight. However, the second order to make them charge fails. On the Wood Elf right, the Branch Wraith orders 1 brigade of Wood Elf infantry plus their accompanying Treeman to move around the farmstead and draw line of sight to the demon flyers. He tries a second order to get them to charge, but fails. Moving to the Wood Elf general, he successfully orders the Warhawks to charge the flank of a unit of demon chariots. He then orders up an infantry brigade to move forwards twice and capture a loot counter in the field. He attempts to repeat this procedure with another infantry brigade, but the order fails. The Wood Elf characters then change position at the end of the command phase, ready for next turn. The Branch Wraith successfully casts the new tree singing spell onto the treekin in the field. However, the demons are quick to dispel this using their Dispel Scroll. In combat, the Wild Riders have charged into the Demon Hounds, generating 15 attacks. The Wood Elves inflict 6 unsaved hits onto the demons, whilst the Hounds can only manage 2 in return. The Hounds retreat 4 centimeters from the combat, and connect with a unit of demon chariots, forcing them to make way. This also results in the Hounds becoming confused. The Wild Riders pursue the Hounds and finish them off in the second round. However, the Hounds do manage to take a stand of Wild Riders with them. The Wild Riders then get an advance move, and as the majority of their unit is in the flank of the green chariots, they advance into their flank. The 2 stands of Wild Riders make their attacks and inflict 2 unsaved hits on the chariots. The chariots in return cause 1 hit on the Wild Riders. The chariots lose combat and retreat 1 centimeter. The Wild Riders pursue and inflict 3 more hits on the chariots this round. The chariots inflict 1 more hit on the Wild Riders in return. The Wild Riders decide to stay locked in combat, So the demons retreat 2 centimeters and the Wild Riders pursue them. The chariots remove their stand and both sides carry over remaining hits. The Wood Elf player then resolves the combat between the Warhawks and the yellow chariots. The demon player uses a strategy card to gift the Warhawk riders with goblin forged blades, forcing them to reroll 1 successful hit this round. This fails to have much impact on the combat, however, as the Warhawks easily destroy the chariots in 2 rounds of combat. The 2 remaining Warhawk stands then elect to advance into the red chariots who are holding the loot counter. However, these chariots prove too tough an opponent, and both sides only score 1 hit each. Both sides fall back in good order, with the demons repositioning to set up a flank charge against the Wild Riders locked in combat. At the start of Demon's turn 2, the unit of chariots which has lost a stand must make an instability check. They roll a 6, and under the new rules for demon instability, that means they regain 1 stand. The red chariots then use their initiative to charge the flanks of the engaged Wild Riders, whilst 1 unit of demon infantry has the Warhawk riders in their initiative range, so charge them. They have to form up in column, as the stands don't have enough movement to form line. Next, the demon flyers home back. The red flyers manage to home back to within command range of a character, but the yellow flyers are not so lucky and are left still within charge range of the enemy. A demon sorcerer manages to order the red flyers to charge the flank of the engaged Warhawks. However, the order to move up the demon infantry brigade fails, and they can only move half pace. The demon general also attempts to order up the remaining infantry brigades, but fails. In combat, the Wild Riders are easily destroyed by the flank charge of the red chariots, although the elves manage to kill off the summoned stand of green chariots before they die. The green chariots then fall back in good order, while the red chariots have an advance into the rear of the Warhawk riders. Caught on 3 sides by enemy units, the Warhawk riders are cut down. The demon units then fall back in good order to threaten the flanks of the Wood Elf infantry. So after 2 turns each, both armies have captured 1 soul gem. The demons have lost a unit of cavalry and a unit of chariots, while the Wood Elves have lost a unit of flyers and a unit of cavalry. The failure of the demon infantry to advance means the Wood Elves now have an excellent opportunity to capture more loot counters. The Wood Elves start turn 3 by declaring an initiative charge with a unit of Wild Riders upon the demon flyers who failed to home back out of their way last turn. The Warhawk riders then home back towards the Treeman Ancient on the left flank of the Wood Elf army, but when the Ancient tries to order them, he fails. On the Wood Elf right flank, the Branch Wraith orders 1 infantry brigade forwards to pick up a loot counter. He then orders them for a second time, and they move back towards the safety of the farmstead with their loot. He also orders the 1st Brigade of Wood Elf infantry that captured a loot counter last turn to fall back in line with the farm as well. The Wood Elf General then issues orders to the remaining Forest Spirit Brigade and the Glade Guard. They move into the farmstead. The General then makes a very long distance order to the Wild Riders, and they move on to one of the loot counters by the road. The characters then move around the battlefield, and the Branch Wraith successfully casts Tree Singing onto a unit of Tree Kin, granting them defended status. In combat, the Wild Riders easily beat the Demon Flyers, who have to retreat. However, the Wild Riders cannot pursue them, so fall back in good order. The Demon unit is reduced to a single stand. At the end of turn 3, the Wood Elves have captured a total of 3 loot tokens, and their infantry have retreated to defendable positions. At the start of Demon turn 3, the single stand of Demon Flyers takes an instability test with a -1 modifier, and it disappears from play. This turn the demon characters fail to issue any successful orders, so the infantry advance is slowed to a crawl. The demon characters then move forwards of their units, and in the magic phase a single stand of chariots is summoned back to the green unit. At the end of turn 3, the Wood Elves still control 3 loot tokens to the demons' 1. At the start of Wood Elf turn 4, the demon player plays a strategy card on the Wood Elf general. This has no effect on him, but it does stop the Wood Elf player from playing their own strategy card on the general this turn. On the Wood Elf left, the Treeman Ancient orders forward a unit of Wild Riders to capture the remaining loot token on the road, whilst 2 more units of Wild Riders move up in support. The Wood Elf infantry units hold position around the farmstead, and in the shooting phase, once again the Branch Wraith casts Tree Singing to grant defended status to a unit of Tree Kin. The Wood Elves are now in a very strong position, as they have captured 4 out of the 5 loot tokens. The demons now launch a desperate counter-offensive. A Slaneshi demon infantry brigade is ordered forward, with 1 unit charging the front of the Wild Riders and others moving up in support. The chariot unit carrying the demon's single loot counter is moved backwards out of harm's way. Meanwhile, a unit of demon flyers is ordered to land behind the engaged Wood Elf cavalry. As the infantry will not be able to pursue the cavalry if they beat them, the flyers are there to ensure that the cavalry does not survive. On the left flank, the demons desperately try to catch the Wood Elves that are holding the remaining loot tokens around the farm. Demon units do get within charge range of the Wood Elves but fail the order to charge. A single unit of blue demons is pushed forward as an obvious bait, to try and entice the Wood Elves out of their strong position. In the magic phase, a demon sorcerer uses his Ring of Magic to grant the purple demons the Frenzy of Chaos, which will allow them to re-roll any missed attacks this round. Boosted by this spell, the combat is particularly brutal, with the demons inflicting 8 hits on the Wild Riders and suffering 5 in return. The surviving Wild Rider stand has to retreat into the flyers and is removed from play. The defeated Wild Riders drop their loot counter and it can be claimed by the purple demons, but they decide not to pick it up. Instead, the purple demons advance into another unit of Wild Riders, bringing the pink demons with them in support. The cream demons fall back in good order from the combat, and it is them that land on the loot counter and pick it up. The demon infantry manage to win the combat against the Wild Riders, reducing the unit of Wild Riders that has the loot counter to a single stand. The purple demons are also killed off in the combat. The defeated Wild Riders retreat and drop their loot counter, which can be claimed by the pink demons, as they had a stand in base contact with the Wild Riders. The pink demons then fall back in good order to form a line with the cream demons, and cackle over their stolen loot. As the Wood Elves have lost 2 of their objectives to the demons last turn, they decide to inflict some damage on the approaching demon army. The Treeman and his accompanying infantry make initiative charges against the blue bait demon unit, whilst an identical Forest Spirit Brigade on the Wood Elf right flank makes a similar initiative charge into the golden demons lurking in the fields. The remaining Wood Elf infantry units hold their defendable positions around the farm. On the Wood Elf left flank, the remaining Wild Rider units are ordered to charge the pink demons. The Wild Riders should be able to recapture the stolen loot and swing the battle back into their favour. The Treeman Ancient attempts to order the Warhawk Riders into the fray as well, but the order fails. So the Treeman joins a unit of Wild Riders to add his hefty 3 attacks to the combat. The Branch Wraith character also decides to join the combat on the Wood Elf right flank, while the general looks on. In combat, the blue demons suffer 6 unsaved hits, but also inflict 6 hits on the Forest Spirits. The Wood Elves win thanks to their support, and the demons retreat. The Treeman elects to pursue the retreating demons while the other units fall back in good order. However, the demons and Treeman fail to land a hit on each other, so the combat ends in a draw. Both sides then fall back in good order, with the Treeman rejoining his brigade. In the fields, the forest spirits inflict 8 hits on the golden demons and suffer 3 in return. The demons remove their casualties and must retreat. The retreating units will collide with the 2 rearmost infantry units, who then have to make way. They both elect to make way to the side to form a battle line. And as the retreating demon units move past their friends who made way, we test for confusion. The forest spirits elect to keep pursuing the retreating demons, and this does bring the red demons who made way into combat through incidental contact. Note that the battle line is now staggered. Because the orange demons retreated 3 centimeters, they actually end up halfway between the 2 friendly red units. In the second round of combat, both sides take extremely heavy losses. But when the dust settles, it is the demons who have won combat by a single point, mainly thanks to their supporting infantry. The forest spirit units retreat 1 centimeter, and the red demons elect to pursue the retreating forest spirits, whilst the orange demons fall back in good order. Having fought 2 rounds of combat this turn, this engagement will conclude next turn. On the Wood Elf left flank, the Wild Riders easily defeat the pink demons and steal their loot counter, and this also forces the cream demons to drop their loot counter as they retreat. The single stand unit takes the loot counter and falls back in good order. Meanwhile, the unit of 3 stands and the Treeman elect to pursue the retreating pink demons and wipe them out. However, the presence of the supporting cream-coloured demons actually results in a draw for both sides, and they both fall back in good order, allowing the demons to regain their loot counter. At the end of their 5th turn, the Wood Elves have caused significant damage to the demon army and recaptured one of the stolen loot counters. The Wood Elves now have 3 counters to the demons 2. At the start of Demon Turn 5, we take an instability check for the orange demons. They regain a stand. We do the same for the blue demons and they lose a stand, removing the unit from play. The cream demons then use their initiative to evade away from the marauding elf cavalry, bringing their loot with them, whilst blue and yellow demons use initiative to charge into the forest spirits across the field. Invigorated by their freshly summoned stand, the orange demons now charge back into the fray against the treekin. Demon sorcerers attempt to order the demon flyers and demon chariots, but the orders fail. The general then attempts to order the remaining Nurgle demon brigade into combat, but they get stuck in the field. The terror-causing sorcerer then joins the blue demons fighting against the treekin, whilst the other demon sorcerer joins the orange demons fighting against forest spirits in the field. The generals face off against each other as the battle swirls around them. In the shooting phase, a demon sorcerer manages to summon an additional stand to the orange demon unit, bringing them back up to 3. In combat, the treekin fighting demons in the field is wiped out, and the dryads are forced to retreat. The demons pursue the dryads as they retreat, and in the ensuing combat, the dryads are also wiped out. The demons wisely decide not to advance into the Treeman, so fall back in good order. Bolstered by the demon character, the blue demons fight fiercely against the Treeman and Treekin. They win combat, forcing the forest spirits to retreat 1 centimeter, and the dryads carrying the loot counter have to drop it. However, as the demons had no stands in contact with the dryads, they can't pick the loot counter up this round. Instead, the loot lies on the ground beneath the fighting units as the forest spirits retreat over it. And the treekin also refuse to pick it up, as they don't want to hand it to the demons if they lose the second round. The second round is particularly bloody, with demons and forest spirits losing models on both sides. The treekin are cut down into kindlewood, and with a mighty crash and cries of timber, the Treeman also falls. However, the Treeman's death throws cause enough damage amongst the yellow demons to draw the combat. As the combat is drawn, both sides must fall back in good order, and we roll a dice to determine who moves first. It is the demons that have to go first, and they move the minimum distance of 1 centimetre. As they have to end their move at least a centimetre away from the dryads, they cannot claim the loot token. And this allows the dryads to move their minimum distance and end up back in possession of their loot. And at the end of this combat engagement, the 2.5 hour time limit for the game expires and the game ends. Both armies lost 7.5 units towards their breakpoint, but all that matters is who scored the most victory points. The Wood Elves have retained possession of 1 loot counter in a unit of Treekin, 1 loot counter in a unit of Dryads, and 1 loot counter in a unit of Wild Riders, for a total of 3. Meanwhile, the Demons have captured 2 loot counters in an infantry and chariot unit. Both players now work out the total value of victory points scored from the enemy units they've destroyed, and then add 200 points to their score for each loot counter they possess. So this was a very close fought battle, and the extremely narrow margin of victory accurately represents this. Both armies had a good chance of winning the game in the final turn. And the scenario does encourage a very aggressive play style, as if you don't capture any loot counters, you're not going to win. The Wood Elf battle planned to advance with their infantry, grab the loot counters from the fields and then retreat to the defendable terrain around the farmstead worked very well. And indeed, if they had just hidden inside the defendable terrain for the rest of the game, they might well have won. However, this would not have made for a very exciting game, so the Wood Elf general decided to attack the demons, rather than simply watch them advancing slowly through the fields. And the suitably brutal close combat between demon units and forest spirits was especially entertaining. Both armies suffered with a lack of strong command options to get their more separated units moving to rejoin the main battle line, with the Wood Elf archer units and the demon chariot units playing very little part in the battle. In addition, the flyers in both armies made an initial strike early on, then failed to make a significant impact, which meant that this game really was determined by the infantry battle. Brigading tree men with units of Treekin and Dryads is a very powerful tactic for the Wood Elf army, while the demon infantry brigades deploying their units in 4 lines allows them to absorb initial charges, then counterattack successfully. We both found the playtest rules for 2022 to be broadly positive. The Wood Elves in particular now play more like a regular army, with their new tree singing spell actively promoting aggressive infantry play, while the Demon's new instability rule gave as much as it took away. We didn't find either army to be particularly overpowered under the new rules, and we find that Demons vs Wood Elves is a particularly balanced matchup. If you enjoyed watching this scenario, then you may be interested in taking part in a UK tournament at the end of April this year. On the 30th of April 2022, myself and Steve will be running Warmaster 2 in Worcester, England. This is a one-day event featuring 3 scenarios, including the Spoils of War. It's ideal for beginners to the game of Warmaster, and I will include a link to the tournament pack below. If you need to purchase some objective counters for use in the Spoils of War scenario, or any other scenario for that matter, then I recommend the product range by Cromarty Forge, where you can purchase resin objective markers or download the STL files and print your own. They also do a fine range of wound markers, which are useful for keeping track of damage to your units. From the 1st of April 2022 you can find these products available to purchase from the Cromarty Forge website at www.centimeterwarriors.com, and I'll include a link below.